Well, hello there. What's up, guys? Muzza Fuzza here, and we're playing some Diablo 3 beta. As you can see, I'm on my Demon Hunter. We're in the Slaughtered Calf Inn, which is the bar in New Tristram. There's some people having seizures and tweaking out right here with looks like a bucket of bread. Here, let's zoom in. What the fuck is that? Yeah, it looks like a bucket of loaves of bread for all these sick and dying people. And I'm on my Demon Hunter, and today we're going to be doing a guide for all the passive skills on the Demon Hunter. So let's open up the skills tab by pressing S, and you got your active skills up here. But what we're going to be talking about today is the passive skills, which are down here. You get one at level 10, another one at level 20, and then another at level 30. But as you guys already know, I can only get to level 13 in the beta, so I've only got one passive skill. But without further ado, let's jump into the passive skills guide for the Demon Hunter. Alright, so the first passive skill that you get as the Demon Hunter is Thrill of the Hunt. Every 10 seconds, your next bow attack will immobilize your target for 3 seconds. The first 3 were dead before they hit the ground. The others weren't so lucky, Captain Rumford. Basically, this is probably going to be useful for PvP, for like Arena, because you're going to be able to slow people down. But as far as PvE elements go, going against bosses and elite mobs and raiding and stuff, I don't really see it being too useful in the dungeon because you don't really need to slow mobs down too much. So moving on to the second passive skill, Tactical Advantage. Whenever you use Vault, Smoke Screen, or Backflip with Evasive Fire, you gain 60% movement speed for 2 seconds. Never start a fair fight. So basically your 3 super mobile skills as a Demon Hunter make you even more mobile and give you a 60% movement speed increase for 2 seconds. And I've played around with that a little bit, and it's kind of nice to use Evasive Fire and do backflips and then be able to move really quick. But once again, probably not the most useful for damage, and damage is what I like to do. Moving on to the third passive skill, Vengeance. Your maximum hatred is increased by 50. In addition, you gain 10 hatred and 1 discipline whenever you're healed by a health globe. If it bleeds, you can kill it. Kill this one slowly. Greyscar, veteran Demon Hunter. So apparently Greyscar is like the badass Demon Hunter. And you just get 50 more hatred and an additional 10 hatred and 1 discipline from health globes. Once again, I guess if you're running out of hatred, if you're using a lot of hatred spender abilities, that could be useful. But like I said, for me, I like to do damage, and that's why I use the fourth passive skill, and this is the final one that I've got unlocked at level 13, and it's called Steady Aim. Kind of a Call of Duty reference, but as long as there are no enemies within 10 yards, all damage is increased by 10%. Flee if you can, demon. I have a quiver full of friends who fly faster than you. Tyler Shrikewing. Basically, as long as there's no enemies within 10 yards, and 10 yards in this game isn't too big of a space. I'd say 10 yards is like around right here, where my mouse is. As long as you have no creatures in a little radius around you, you're going to be doing 10% more damage, and I like that sort of thing. So that's one that I'm using right now, just so I have a better damage output when I'm farther away from enemies. Moving on to the fifth passive skill, and the first one that I don't have unlocked because you unlock it at level 15, Cull of the Weak. Damage against slowed enemies increased by 20%. I'll show you the same mercy you showed my helpless family. Tyler Shrikewing. I don't know who Tyler Shrikewing is, but she has a badass name. Shrikewing. I like it. Damage against slowed enemies increased by 20%. Basically, if you're using Bola Shot, if you're using traps, this could be useful if you're using a bunch of abilities that do slow people down, but I really don't. I like to use Grenades, Elemental Arrow, Chakrams, and Shadow Power. Those are the 4 that I have on right now, and none of those really slow people down, so that's not that useful for me. Moving on to the sixth passive skill for the Demon Hunter, Night Stalker. Critical hits have a chance to restore 1 discipline. Discipline is used to fuel many of your tactical and defensive skills. How did I learn to hate, to kill, to flay the flesh from the bones of my prey without pity? You taught me. Tyler Shrikewing's final words to Narog the Sin Eater. That's some badass lore for your ass, but basically, whenever you get a crit as a Demon Hunter, you have a chance to restore 1 discipline, and discipline fuels most of your utility skills, which are like your crazy, here I'll just show you. You got your Vault, you got your Marked for Death, your Sentry, your Smoke Screen, your Companion where you summon a Raven, but I'll talk about all the active skills in a different video. But as far as Night Stalker goes, once again, probably not something I'm going to use because I don't really care that my critical hits have a chance to restore 1 discipline. I would rather put it in something that does more damage. Moving on to the 7th passive skill for the Demon Hunter, Fundamentals. Increases the damage of your basic attack by 100%. Your basic attack restores 4 hatred. Of course you'll be able to hit your prey more squarely when you pull the string back properly, but it's the sound of the impact I like best. Music to my ears. Grayscar, Veteran Demon Hunter. So basically you're going to double your basic attack damage, and your basic attacks will restore 4 hatred for you, thus generating a lot more hatred than you normally have. It's decent if you're going to be doing regular attacks a lot, but I like to spam elemental arrows like this and just go crazy and throw chakrams like this, and this, and this. So I don't really find myself auto-attacking pretty much ever, so it's not that useful for me. Moving on to the 8th passive skill for the Demon Hunter, Brooding. As long as you have not taken damage in the last 5 seconds, you gain 2% of your maximum life per second. So if you were all the way down, you would have all your health back in just 49 or 50 seconds, as long as you haven't taken any damage in the last 5 seconds. This would be really useful. And the little quote underneath it says, "Never forget where you came from," which I don't know where the Demon Hunters really came from. I don't know much about the Diablo universe, but that's pretty useful. That's probably one that I would actually throw on, especially if I was running like higher level nightmare difficulty dungeons where everybody's dying all the time. I think it would be useful to have a lot of regeneration like that. But moving on to the 9th passive skill for the Demon Hunter, Hot Pursuit. Whenever you are at full hatred, movement speed is increased by 10%. Don't make me chase you back to hell, vermin. I know a quicker way to send you there. Tyla Shrikewing. Now, I think Tyla is probably a girl's name, so I should have done that in a girl's voice. But whatever. Whenever you're at full hatred, movement speed is increased by 10%. Pretty goddamn useful. If you're not using hatred spending abilities, you're mostly using hatred generating abilities, and you find yourself at full hatred a lot, it could be nice to have that extra 10% movement speed. But we move on. Archery. Gain a bonus based on the weapon type of your main hand weapon. If it's a bow, you get 10% increased damage. If it's a crossbow, 100% critical hit damage. If you have a hand crossbow, 5% more chance to critical hit. Feel the weight of the crossbow in your hand. Now, the wind, the distance, the target speed. Good. Now try it with the blood in your eyes and a demon at your throat. Grayscar, Veteran Demon Hunter. So, I'm glad I didn't do that one in a girly voice, but basically, if you're using a bow, 10% increased damage is not that useful, but the bottom two, 100% more crit damage and 5% more chance to crit for hand crossbows, that sounds pretty goddamn awesome. And me right now, I have dual-wield rare one-handed crossbows, so that would give me an increased 10% chance to crit, which would be a big damage boost. So that one is pretty useful, and you unlock it at level 20, so it could actually be my 2nd passive skill that I put on. Moving on. Numbing Traps. Enemies hit by Fan of Knives, Spike Traps, and Caltrops have their damage reduced by 30% for 3 seconds. Demonic anatomy is strange and diverse. At times, they defy sanity, but in other ways, they are just as vulnerable as we are. Meditations on the enemy. Numbing traps, there's not much to say about it. It makes all your traps numb the enemies and make it so that they do 30% less damage for 3 seconds. To be honest, it doesn't sound that useful, and I don't think I would use it. So we move on. Perfectionist reduces the discipline cost of all skills by 20%. Discipline is used to fuel many of your tactical and defensive skills. Once the trap is sprung, you must not relent until every last enemy has fallen. To hesitate is to invite disaster. So if you want to cut down your discipline cost of your skills, and I think once you're higher level, once you're over level 30 in this game, there's probably a lot of skills that you're going to be using that do cost a lot of discipline, and right now I only have 38 discipline total. So that could help if you want to be using your higher discipline spending abilities. Moving on to the 13th passive skill for the Demon Hunter, Custom Engineering. The duration of your caltrops, Marked for Death, Spike Trap, and Sentry abilities are increased by 100%. The self-loading mechanisms built into most hand crossbows and traps are delicate and difficult to maintain. Extensive practice is required to use them properly. So eventually you get like what's basically a sentry gun, you get spike traps, you get caltrops, which are another form of a trap, and Mark for Death, which is an active skill that I don't quite have. And this will make them last double as long as they normally do, 100% longer duration for all those abilities. So if you're going to be using lots of different traps and you want better engineering on said traps, that's the passive skill for you. Moving on to Grenadier, or however you say that. Increases hatred regeneration from grenades by 2, and reduces the hatred cost of cluster arrow by 10. Upon your death, you drop a giant grenade that explodes for 877% weapon damage as fire. So if you die, you do 877% weapon damage in a giant grenade explosion. Talk about martyrdom. Do not construct these devices by candlelight nor by firelight. Once armed, be no closer than 10 paces upon the count of 3. Explicit instructions from Quang the Chemist. Honestly, I would take that just for the giant fucking explosion of doom, because it sounds awesome, but the hatred regeneration for grenades and the hatred cost of cluster arrow going down helps as well, because I like using grenades. I'm using grenades right now, down here. Throw 3 grenades that bounce and explode. I like it. Moving on to the 15th passive skill, Sharpshooter. Gain a 3% chance to critical hit every second. This bonus is reset 1 second after you successfully critical hit. Every creature has a vulnerability. Find it and put an arrow in it. Gray Scar Veteran Demon Hunter. So every second you gain a 3% more chance to crit until you crit, and then once you do crit, it's reset 1 second after. So this would just really boost up your ability to crit and do critical hits, and critical hits usually do at least 200% damage. So that's a big damage booster as well. But we move on to our final passive skill for the Demon Hunter. Ballistics. Damage from rockets increased by 100%. Rockets are fired from certain socketed skill effects. Now, I don't really have any rune stones socketed in any of my active abilities, but you can see that this is where you place them, on the right side of the active abilities. And when you do place them there, certain abilities have a chance to cast rockets. This one makes the damage from those rockets double, increased by 100%. How should I know who first invented these devices? Just make sure the correct end is pointed at the enemy and they'll do the rest. Grayscar, Veteran Demon Hunter. Grayscar is just a badass. He's got all the quotes. I thought I was going to hear from Tyla again so I could do it on the girl voice, but I guess we'll save that for another video. But you guys, that about covers all of the passive skills for the Demon Hunter. And the Demon Hunter is awesome. I hope you guys are liking these Diablo 3 beta videos. I can't wait for the full game to come out, and I hope you guys are excited as well, because I'm going to be making lots and lots of Diablo 3 videos. I can't wait for this game. This is probably my most anticipated video game of all time. If you guys like this video, drop me a like, maybe a favorite, show some support on the video with likes, favorites, comments. You guys know the drill. And if you want to hit me up, follow me on Twitter or Facebook. The links are down below in the description, along with a playlist to all my other Diablo 3 videos that you guys can check out in case you've missed them. This has been Muzzafuzza, and I will see you guys next time. Check out all these chakrams. More chakrams. More spinning chakrams. That's how you pronounce it, I think, anyways. Chakram, maybe chakram. I don't fucking know.